Okay. Let's see if this
var,
worked.
yapamayacaklarımız var. Hani o şeyde ehil bir şekilde hani devam etmesi lazım. Hani deli neşeli şarkılar.
Okay, well they wanted me to join, but oh wait, you're backstage. Only the host can see. Merhaba.
Merhabalar, hoş geldiniz.
Selam,
Hoş geldiniz.
merhaba.
Okay. All right. What's up? What's up, everybody?
Hi everyone.
I don't know what you guys wanted to talk to me about specifically, but you know, we've been actively covering the situation on the ground, and you know, anywhere and any way that we can help, we're trying to, from, you know, out here in the United States. You guys are Turkish, you know this already. It is very difficult to fundraise for Turkish charities, non-government organizations specifically, unfortunately, due to PayPal not being allowed in the country. So one of the things I immediately wanted to do was, because I wanted to help as best as I could. So one of the things I immediately did was, and I worked with a bunch of other Twitch streamers to be able to do this. We got a payment processor, not a payment processor, but like a charity pool, basically, called that engages in this kind of thing, that opened up a round of communications with the Turkish charity Ahbab specifically.
That's very good.
And we're expediting funds over there as quickly as possible. We've almost reached 800,000 at this point. We're about to reach $800,000, and we're working with Soft Giving to do that. But yeah, I mean, if you guys have any scientific perspective that you want to add on to this conversation, it could be helpful, because there's probably still a lot of people who are confused.
So for your audience, I don't know how much they follow the geologists and seismologists and stuff like that, but to understand the severity of the situation. So just as a little recap, Turkey is situated on a geographic location called Anatolia. And this geographic location, you know, part in Europe, but the part that's in Asia is called Anatolia. And then this landmass is being squeezed by two tectonic plates. So we feel that our ground is currently just, you know, one piece, but that's completely wrong. There are 7, 8, 9, 10 big tectonic plates, and these plates have microplates among them that shift and move due to the magma at the bottom of them rotating slowly. So it's slowly pushing it away. So our audience, your audience in the US would know this very well because of the San Andreas fault line in California. We have a very similar fault line here in Turkey. So as you can see in this image over here, so this top one is called the North Anatolian fault line, and the other one that goes from eastern Turkey towards Syria, towards Cyprus, is called East Anatolian fault line fault. So what happens is, as you can see, the Arabian plate from southeast Turkey is pushing Anatolian plate upwards towards the north, and then Anatolian plate is squeezed in between the Eurasian plate that's towards the north of Turkey. So what happens is, it's literally like squeezing a watermelon seed with your two fingers. As it happens, the watermelon seed just literally shoots off towards the west, and that's what we're seeing towards the Hellenic arc, towards Greece. Actually, the western part of Turkey is sinking in slowly. So this is actually, I mean, if you think about it, it's the entire crust of the planet is moving, and as it moves, these fault lines, these faults that's called faults, are literally junctions between these plates. And don't think this as like a smooth surface. It has big ass rocks, and these big ass rocks cling on to one another over hundreds of miles, and they want to move, they can't move, and it breaks. And once it breaks, it releases so much energy that's equivalent to like 350 SAR bombs. That's the bomb, thermonuclear bomb, that the biggest thermonuclear bomb that's ever been detonated. Thousands of them going off at once. It's equivalent to that. And that's what happened. So the thing is, the problem here is this has been known. These fault lines haven't been drawn in the after this earthquake. These fault lines generate so many big earthquakes. They have some sort of statistical, repeat patterns. Sometimes it acts in predictive manners. For example, the North Anatolian fault line, which Istanbul resides on, and has been the biggest concern, has been acting in a very predictable manner in the past 100 or 150 years from east of the fault line towards the west of the fault line. As the tectonic plates shift, it releases stress onto the next fault segment. And then that segment starts building up pressure, and eventually those rocks give, and literally the plate moves 6 feet, 7 feet in 30 seconds, 40 seconds. In the last earthquake's case, in 90 seconds, it moved about 9 feet. So it's an immense amount of mass moving. So it's been kind of predictive. Now, this East Anatolian fault, it has a periodicity of about 400 years for earthquakes this big, which unsurprisingly, the last 7+ earthquake that happened on this fault line is thought to have happened about 400 years ago. So there has been smaller earthquakes, but the crazy thing about the situation currently is that, one, it has been known, this has been coming. And professors have been warning about this. They are saying we cried after seeing that it happened finally. And they're so helpless. Just imagine, it's, how they say every Hollywood science fiction movie starts with someone not listening to what professors say. It's literally that situation. And the second thing is the fault that broke in this case is in what's called a triple junction. So there are 3 plates touching one another. What happened is one of those plates eventually gave way, and it shifted, and it gave a 7.8 magnitude earthquake while it was shifting, and it caused the top one to shift with itself after 9 hours. Just for us, it's like a long time, but geologically speaking, 9 hours, 400 years, these are like seconds. And when it shifted the second time, it caused a secondary earthquake that's 7.6 magnitude. And these two combined with aftershocks that's about 6.6, 6.7, the buildings there haven't been up to code. They haven't been checked. These big residences, just to squeeze more money out, the entrances, the columns at the entrances are cut so that they can be converted into Migroses. So, Turkish audience would know, like Walmarts. I mean, mini Walmarts, not even Walmart. So it's like street corner markets, basically, in Turkey. What happens is when you want to build that big area, you cut the column so it becomes weaker. And those who have those collapsed. So all of this could easily be foreseen, and it had been foreseen, and nothing has been done. So my question is for people to think, what did we expect? What was to be expected? Mother Nature be nice to us? Just say, okay, we'll be fine this time. So that's the severity of the situation. 5 million, a population of 5 million has been impacted by this earthquake. 10 cities. The death count is close to 6,000 now. It's estimated to go over 100,000 possibly, because if you multiply the number of buildings that collapsed, that's verified to have collapsed, and then multiply it with the number of apartments in it. So I can't even imagine their situation because of the political situation.
Yeah, they also have sanctions that render aid impossible for the most part. Questions I have for you guys. I mean, I don't know how much you guys can talk about the political situation in Turkey. I don't know what your perspective is on the matter, but there are a couple things that I have heard, a couple things that I've read about, for example, the earthquake tax, deprem vergisi, right? Like I was in Istanbul in 99. My family moved to Ankara shortly after that. And I grew up in Istanbul and Ankara. And from what I understand, one of the things that the government started collecting was this earthquake tax since 2000 all the way into 2023 to the tune of 800 trillion. So what, 800 billion liras. And when asked time and time
Trillion
again,
liras at the time, but then
Yeah,
Because
when-
liras have been removed. I mean, immense amounts of money, unimaginable amounts of money. Yeah.
yeah, and when asked where that money had gone to, I believe they said we built roads, which we saw the condition of the roads in that earthquake. So I don't know if those were the specific roads that they built, but it didn't seem like they were earthquake proof. I don't even know how much you can earthquake proof roads to begin with, but on top of that, it was supposed to, I assume, go towards building apartment complexes and ensuring that there was like some kind of regulation surrounding that so that they were up to earthquake code. And it does seem as though the government did not adequately use those resources. And then also on top of that, gave favorable contracts to friends of local municipalities, friends of the Erdogan regime, that would then build these buildings that were not up to code, knowing full well that the government was not going to come and check them regardless. So it seems like, it seems like they have a hand in this as well.
If I may interject, so we also have lots of opinions on that, and we are also humans. But for this live streams, we are all science communicators and scientists or science enthusiasts. So maybe to talk about more other aspects of scientific aspects would be
My
better.
bad.
So if you have questions on that, or your audience have questions with that, we would be happy.
Okay.
Otherwise, in a different live stream, we would be happy to discuss those
No,
matters. Of
I
course.
understand.
But
Okay.
this
it's all
started
good.
with something else. Yeah.
I think
Now,
many
that-
times repeated
that-
that they should listen the scientists.
Yeah, we
many
can
times
say that, of
repeated
course.
many
Yeah.
times. Everyone,
Well-
all the politicians should listen to scientists.
Yeah.
This is the fact of the world. They don't listen, right?
But the audience the audience that's watching us right now understands the situation by just saying that much.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Hasan?
I understand their concept.
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a question I get regularly, and it's one that I have as well. If there were comparable building codes to that of Japan, for example, what kind of, I mean, obviously you can't stop earthquakes, right? Like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
We're on a fault line. We already know that. But if there were better building codes, is there a way to, soften the impact of this calamity?
Yes, definitely. Unless someone else wants to share any perspective.
Because people say that this earthquake is devastating because it went on for the first one went on for approximately 2
seconds.
minutes, right?
Yeah, 90 seconds or so. Mhm.
Yeah, 90 seconds, which is,
and it depends on where you were at. You might have felt it for 2 minutes very easily, but
yeah,
it
it went on for 90 seconds. Its depth was also, I mean, it was shallow. It was closer to the ground, from what I understand. Like the major impact happened
6 miles, 7 miles. Yeah, very close to surface,
in comparison to other earthquakes that often happen at way lower depths, or happen, for example, like in the case of Japan, it happens in the water. It happens inside of the it happens under the sea. So like obviously that factors into this, right? Like I mean. Not every earthquake is the same.
Yes, and
other than
Hasan,
the
do you see
Richter
that
scale.
newspaper? Do you see that newspaper? Nothing changed in
It's a little
Turkey.
blurry. It says son posta felaketin büyümesinde hileli
Just
inşaat
you can
sebep oldu.
translate. Nothing changed in Turkey.
This is from 1939.
Oh, this is the 1939 earthquake, right?
One of the biggest
I
one.
would.
Yeah.
So for my American audience, the newspaper from 1939 reads in bold. The reason why the calamity grew to the size it did was because the architects and building developers did not they basically robbed the people that were living inside of those buildings. They took they stole from the resources.
Do you see
Right?
the
That's what
dead
they're
body over
saying.
there? And do you see the
Yeah.
woman who is hugging to president of that time? Despite,
So
nothing changed.
Yeah. So the biggest problem in terms of like political science here is that the not following scientific guidelines to the letter. So trying to cut corners. This is a disease that we have. I mean, the entire world has it. We want to cut corners.
Capitalism.
We want to get yes. So we want to make the for us the measure of success is the money you make, and as long as you do that, the easiest way to make money is to cut costs. So, but the problem is it directly clashes with the literal science of optimization, where you have to uh, accept certain costs, even if it eats away from your profits. So that's literally engineering. I mean, we think engineering about like, this physics and stuff like that, but it's literally cost optimization. There's a budget for this project. So how well can we build this building with the given budget, period. And we literally, they taught us one of the biggest lessons in engineering, like class topics, is the safety factor. So how much more safety factor you're going to add on top of what's needed bare minimum, right? Think about a bridge. You can calculate it and know that after 1,000 cars passing at the same time, it will collapse. Or at a wind that's 80 miles per hour, it will collapse. So if we build it at the bare minimum, that's going to happen. So, and that's what's asked from us. But you know what? We should have a safety factor of 1.5. So instead of 80 miles per hour, we should let it stand. So we should add more resources to make it stand at 120 miles per hour. What happens if 1,200 cars pass at the same time? So this is safety factor, and you can minimize it to the point where it is bare minimum. So this is one big thing that people don't understand, that when you don't follow science, this is what happens in practical life. Science isn't about I throw a ball, it goes this far and falls in 3 seconds. That's what we are taught in high school, so that when it's time, if you get the correct education, you can apply those principles to figure out how much safety factor you should add, how can you optimize, how can you make it better for the amount of budget you have. So if the buildings were up to code, if we were following scientific guidelines, what would happen is, yes, you can't prevent earthquakes, and yes, you can't predict earthquakes to the date, to the size, magnitude. But when it happens, the damage you're gonna get, and this is the difference between magnitude and shiddet, the intensity. So that's commonly confused too. So when that energy is released, so the magnitude is determined, the intensity of vibrations that causes your buildings to collapse, your building can withstand that longer and longer and longer. So what does that do? It gives you time to leave the building, right? So when we think about Japan, we tend to think about Tokyo, big ass buildings, skyscrapers. Of course, you have to adapt it to that type of situation, and they do. That's why it can withstand like 8, 9 earthquakes. What happens? The buildings literally slides right to left as the earthquake happens. Doesn't vibrate. It just moves, rolls with the earthquake. But see, not all Japan is filled with skyscrapers. And we saw this in Fukushima. So when in Fukushima, when that earthquake happened, thousands of buildings collapsed, but only a few people died. So the problem here is not just the building collapsing, it's how it collapses, when it collapses. And when you add these safety factors to it, instead of collapsing in the 20th second, it can collapse on the 40th second, or maybe after an aftershock, so you can leave the building. Or when it collapses properly. It can just fall down like this, or it can roll and crumble into pieces, right? There are different ways of failure, fracture. So these are all things that we needed to consider, and we didn't. So it begs the question: what did we expect? What was going to happen? So yeah, that's what I can add. That's my 2 cents in the topic.